Alright friends, we just got 15 of these Zoom Q8 Handycam style recorders here at East Central University, and because of that, now seems like a good time to do a tutorial on how to use this. Now, if you are not an ADMC student here at ECU, don't worry, I'm not tailoring this for our students. This is just a straight up how to use this camera kind of thing. That being said, let's get to it. Okay, so the first place I like to start with any camera is putting a battery in and putting a card in. So if we go ahead and flip this camera over, you can see on the back here we have this little panel here. All we gotta do is pop that off, take our battery, make sure our little tab is pulled out here. Battery goes in just like that, fold that tab over, and then take your panel and slide it back in. SD card is very similar in terms of how easy it is. You just pop open this little panel on the bottom here, take your card, label facing you, push it in, close the panel back up. To charge this battery once it's in the camera, you'll want to push this little button here and rotate your capsule up. You can see this mini USB port right here. You plug the cable in, you can plug it straight into a computer, you can also plug it into a charging block. Either way, that's your charging port. You also have a headphone port here if you need it. Once we've got a battery and a card in the camera, it's time to turn it on, which you do by hitting this little green button right here. Once the camera's on, you will see that. Now, if we're looking at this, let me zoom in just a little bit here so we can see what we're doing. The first thing we want to do is format our card so that we avoid data corruption. And to do that, you come up here to your little setting icon, and then you come down to settings. And under settings, you want to navigate to the second page of this menu, come to your SD card, and hit format. Now, it's really important before you hit yes, make sure that anything on this card has been backed up because you will lose it. It will be gone forever if you've not backed it up. So I'm gonna hit yes, and then we'll go back to our homepage here, our viewfinder, so we can start talking about some of our video settings. Now, if you're looking at this and you don't see your options around the side of the camera, don't worry, all you gotta do is touch the screen and they will show right back up. As far as video controls, the only thing you can really control from the viewfinder itself is going to be your zoom. So you see we have this little magnifying glass with a plus. You can zoom in or you can zoom out from the viewfinder right here. One of the cool things about this camera is that it does have a 160-degree wide-angle lens, so you can get some really wide shots while still being very close to whatever you're shooting. So this action figure is only about 8 inches away from my camera right now. Like I said, that's about all you can control from here, so to do anything else with this camera, you need to go back to your settings. And there are two things you need to look at here. One of them is going to be camera. We'll look at that in a second. The other is this recording mode. So if I select that, you can see we have three options: create, video, and audio. If I click create, what you'll see is we have some more options here. We have MOV, MOV plus wave, stereo audio, and multi-audio. MOV will just create a video with audio of whatever you're shooting. MOV plus wave will create a video as well as a high fidelity wave file that you can then edit with a little more finesse. You also have stereo audio and multi-audio, but if I select stereo audio and I come out of this, look what happens. We're no longer recording video, we are just recording audio. We're doing either stereo or multi. So if I come back into settings here, record mode, create, I'm gonna go back to MOV plus wave. The difference between these two things is kind of interesting. So stereo audio will record either your capsule or your two external microphones or a combination thereof. Multi will do the same thing, except for instead of being a stereo file, it'll be a nice little packaged multi-track recording. But if you're thinking about using this as a camera and not just an audio recorder, I wouldn't recommend going with either of those. So if I come out of create here, the next option you have is video. So if I select video, this is where you can set your aspect ratio, your resolution, your frame rate, all of that. Honestly, I wouldn't really recommend coming down into this second page of it. You do have HD, you do have 720p at 30 frames per second for 8 megabytes per second. But if we come up into our first page, you can see we have 720 at 60 frames per second and 1080 at 1624 megabytes per second. I really don't recommend shooting in 720 unless you absolutely need that 60 FPS. I highly recommend always shooting in 1080 because it's just going to be a better quality video. Now you'll notice my camera is not set to 1080, it is set to this 3M HD 30 24 megabytes per second. That means I'm recording at 30 frames a second. I'm getting 24 megabytes per second as far as my bitrate goes, and this 3M, what that means is this camera is actually shooting at roughly 2.5K. So it's a little better than 1080, but it's not quite all the way up to 4K. I always shoot as high as I possibly can and then compress down in my edit because it just makes things look nice and crispy. So if we come out of our record mode and we come over to camera, this is where you're going to be able to control all of your other like color settings and things like that. Now, unfortunately, this camera does not have any manual settings to speak of, so that's kind of a downer. But if you come in here to scene, you can see that we have auto, we have concert lighting, night, concert lighting, low light. We have different options. We have all kinds of different options here. And if you're not sure which one to use, my best recommendation is just do some test footage and see what works for you. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine in auto for right now. A couple other things before we get to the audio side of things. I do want to show you right here under this camera option there is a self timer that allows you to set a timer for when you record. It will wait up to 10 seconds before it starts recording. And then the other thing is that if we come over here to LCD, you can see we have unlock and lock. What that does is it allows you to either leave it unlocked so that when you rotate this viewfinder around, the image will flip, or lock it so that when you flip it, it stays inverted. Either way, this is how you adjust that. All right, so let's go back to some audio settings here. First thing we need to talk about is going to be this mic capsule up here on top of the camera. This is the default recording device for this camera and it works really, really well. You can see we have this volume knob right here to control it a little bit. And then on the back, we also have these two ports right here. These ports will accept either XLR or 1/4-inch cables, so you can plug pretty much anything you want to into this camera and record pretty well with it. Now, while we're talking about that, we do need to discuss these 4 buttons right here. You can see we have LR and we have 1, 2. Now, if we are recording this with our capsule up here, you have to make sure that LR is in fact selected. If you want to record with the external microphones, you want to make sure that 1 and 2, or just 1 or just 2, are selected. Otherwise, you're not going to get any audio from those sources. If you want to have just those sources and not your capsule, go ahead and just hit either L or R. Those lights will go off. It's just really important to know where these buttons are because if it's not lit up, it's not recording that channel. We also have volume knobs here for both our mic 1 and mic 2. And then if we come in here, you can see we have some other options for audio. So if I hit this little mixer here, you can see we have faders for each of our channels, which depending on whether or not they're on, these are very useful. You can turn a mic up or down from here. You can also, on your mics 1 and 2, you can have phantom power and pad depending on whether or not you need that for that microphone. In this menu you can also add a low cut, or using the dynamics you can add a limiter, a compressor, a leveler. You can do all kinds of cool stuff in this camera without ever having to have an audio board. This camera really is a near perfect audio recorder that also happens to record video. Once you've got everything set and you're ready to record, you can either hit the record button here or the button here, and you are rocking and rolling. To stop, either the stop icon here or the stop button on top. And if you need to review any of your footage, you can always come here to the playback. You can also come here to files and you can see whatever you recorded there as well. And there you have your quick tutorial on how to use the Zoom Q8 digital video recorder. Alright, that being said, get out there and use it. Keep shooting, friends.